Now, welcome back. President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday deliver his State of the Nation address before a joint sitting of the two houses of Parliament. And this, of course, will be President Ramaphosa's inaugural State of the Nation address for the 7th administration of Government of National Unity. Now, he's expected to set out government's key policy objectives and also the deliverables for the year ahead. Now, let's look at what President Ramaphosa is likely to say, and also will all parties in the GNU be fully supportive given some of the tensions that currently exist? So to help us look at this and tackle some of what we can expect, we joined here in studio by SABC News Political Editor Mzwandile Mbeje. Mzwai, thanks for coming through. So Thursday State of the Nation address, and a different one given that this is now under the auspices of a government of national unity.
Quite interesting. A very good morning to you and the viewers, Sakina. But I think we do have an indication of what the president is going to say because we are basing it on the opening of Parliament when he was already opening it as a president who's under GNU. Where they basically looked at what they call the minimum program, things that they agree on. Remember, in terms of their ideologies, they're just quite worlds apart. But there are those that South Africa really, we don't even have to have ideology on them. So the issues of economy, the issues of making sure that you fix things like local government, I think those will be some of the key areas that the president will look at. And of course, that which he said last time, he is probably going to then give us an update. So how far did they go? But as you have said, so how are the tensions that are currently happening going to influence what is to be done?
And these are policy tensions, you know, and speaks to the divergence of ideology among some of the GNU partners. And we've heard them express their dissatisfaction at some of the legislation that has been enacted of late during this particular 7th administration. We're talking about the Bella Act, we're talking about the Expropriations Act, we're talking about not quite an act yet, but the NHI bill, which already, of course, the ANC has indicated that they are proceeding with. And we know that that is another serious bone of contention for some of the GNU partners.
In fact, it's also based on what you've just said. And then I'm looking at the day before SONA, and where we will actually see something that is quite different. I mean, it's I remember the DA as an opposition party, it was quite understood that before the SONA, they would obviously put their own alternative SONA. But what happens as a tradition in government, as Sakina, is that you'd have cabinet lekhutla, but then government will not come out and communicate what they've agreed upon, because that which is being discussed there at cabinet lekhutla will feed into the State of the Nation address. So that's where we'll know what all those parties would have said. But this time round, which I find very interesting, a day before cabinet, a day before the SONA, the DA will communicate the outcomes of the cabinet lekhutla with the DA ministers. I just don't understand how that will happen. It was quite understandable when they were the official opposition, but now they are part of government. So will that not raise tensions? What will other parties, how will other parties respond? So that is quite something to look out for.
What is the protocol in that regard? And I suppose it's one of those new frontiers for this government of national unity, because previously, you know, it was the ANC and they didn't have to consult with any other parties, and therefore they could just go ahead and, you know, you knew that it would stay where it was with the president. But now, what is the protocol regarding other parties? Are they within their rights to go back to their parties to report back before SONA, or?
It is quite a complex situation, Sakina, because they will go there as a political party. Remember, as much as they are all part of the GNU, they are still independent political parties. So they are allowed to then speak about their own programs. So here, they are not saying we are we are communicating as government. We are communicating as the DA. This was our contribution. So they are within their rights to do that. It's just that, as per tradition, so we've got used to then waiting for the president to communicate that. But for me, that would be interesting, because what they're going to basically say, they'll probably tell us this was our contribution, and then we'll then be listening to what the president is going to be saying. So how much will he incorporate that which they will convey before we know from the president? So we are in a very interesting era politically in South Africa, and how long these tensions, these contradictions will last in terms of pushing a service delivery will be very interesting to watch.
And what will happen to the other parties represented in the GNU? Will they follow suit in terms of what the DA will do, or will they, as previously, where other parties like Patricia de Lille's Good Party would just follow the line of march, as it were. But this, of course, also happening against the backdrop, this SONA, of quite a lot of developments internationally for South Africa. There's a lot going on. So Trump this morning, message out on Truth Central. We've got the DRC situation unfolding. We still have the situation with the Gaza and Israel, where South Africa is, a protagonist in that particular matter to the international court. So whereas traditionally the president would basically have his denouement working towards international relations, given everything that's happened, how prominent should this feature in SONA?
It should, because I think the president will have to obviously assure South Africans that the country is really moving on quite well, and we're able to navigate through all those challenges. South Africans will be wanting to hear what is our next plan around the DRC. Of course, I think the first reaction from many people was, hey, bring our soldiers back. But as the head of state, he's got much bigger responsibilities than that. So he will then have to indicate to us where we are, what are we supposed to do with that situation. People are really interested in wanting to hear that. But of course, as you have said, we've just seen the tweet from the most powerful country in the world now, saying, actually speaking about the decisions that we have taken as a country to say if we don't change it, so he'll cut funding from us. So how does he navigate that? In light, Sakina, of the fact that I think in November, we will have the G20. And remember, that G20 hosts the most important leaders of the world, including America, and we'll also have to hand over to America. So how will that play out itself, given that, the American president is not happy with some of the policies? But then, should we then bend to America? Should we not do what we're supposed to do?
Put South Africa first, as he's putting America first.
He's putting America first. We have to put South Africa first. But then, should we then be bullied because they have economic muscle? I think the president will have to navigate that. His diplomatic wisdom have to come through here.
And with all of that, we haven't even talked about some of the more pressing domestic issues, what's happening with Eskom. We saw the return of load shedding this weekend. There is, of course, the social wage issue, all of those things. What happens with some of the promises that have been made previously, not followed through upon with government. So the basic income grant, for example, things like that. So all of that to look forward to with the State of the Nation address on Thursday. And SABC will bring you wall-to-wall coverage. We even have a pop-up channel for that, so stay with us. And that was Mzwandile Mbeje in conversation with me, SABC News Political Editor, giving us his preview of this year's State of the Nation address that will be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa on Thursday.